now tuned in to the cold, hard truth. Cayman's #1 hard-hitting live podcast show, where we feature some straightforward conversations on political, social, and celebrity news and all things happening in the Cayman Islands and around the world. This show was created to give the people a voice and a means of being involved and informed without any filters. Sometimes it gets crazy, but we always keep it real. We bring you the tea, piping hot, so grab your favorite beverage and join the conversation via WhatsApp at 324-1612. Email tips at CaymanMarlRoad.com. Now, here's your host, Sandy Hill, broadcasting live from the beautiful Cayman Islands.
So we are also here at Smith Barcadere with the Cayman Islands Prep School. So a number of them came out for Earth Day cleanup as well. So good morning, folks. We're here with the Garden Club of Grand Cayman, and they've been established since 1957, it looks like, and they are here also participating in the Earth Day cleanup events. So what a beautiful group of ladies and gentlemen it looks like. I see at least one guy in the back there who's part of the Garden Club. So good morning to all of you.
Good morning.
You're here at Smith Barcadere. Miss Berna, thank you so much for taking a few minutes out to tell us why you guys are participating in the Earth Day cleanup today.
Thank you very much. We're the Garden Club, and we try to participate in activities like this because we want our island to be environmentally clean and safe. And Smith Barcadere we chose because, you know, it's very near and dear to me in particular. And it was easier for our members because there's a lot of shade, to be quite honest.
Yes.
And it's such a beautiful spot that we could enjoy while working.
Yes.
And we also learned a lot about the endangered trees that are here. We were just having a lesson from our member Shirley. Shirley, where
Hi,
are you?
Shirley.
And I'm going to ask her to share a little bit about the trees
absolutely.
that almost were destroyed, but thank God we've saved them. Here you go, Shirley.
Hi, Miss Shirley. You're into everything, my dear.
Everything.
Everything, yes. Everything Cayman and the environment, absolutely. So are you, good morning, are you a Garden Club member as well?
I am.
Wow, that's beautiful. So tell us about
Third generation
Garden Club member.
Her grandmother
Oh my
was a charter member.
Oh wow, amazing. So
Founding
what is this tree here that we're looking at,
This
Shirley?
is the Trichilia habanensis, and I'm no expert. I
Yes.
just know that they're endangered, rare. There's hardly any of them left in Cayman anymore.
Oh wow.
And this area was in the proposed parking lot for the Smith Barcadere beautification.
Redevelopment, yeah.
So we're pleased that we still have these trees. This one, it looks like the wind has toppled the top out of it, and or maybe lightning or something. I'm not sure, but I'm gonna see if.
And there's another one right next to it as well.
Yeah,
There are about five or six.
Oh,
of them
wow.
we have here now. There used to be, I think, 7. But,
Amazing.
people need to be aware of them so they don't cut them down
Yes.
or bulldoze them down, and
Absolutely.
they don't transplant easily.
Yeah. So what else does the Garden Club do other than look at beautiful gardens, I suppose?
Well,
Tell us a little bit about your organization.
Well, each month we go to someone's garden because we do not have an office. And like this coming month, we meet the first Thursday of the month. We'll be meeting at the Harris's house on Prospect Road. And we have a short business, then we have a program. And this coming program, we were going to have Dr. Jacqueline with propagation. Unfortunately, he's going to have a procedure the day before. So the National Trust is coming to teach us how to plant things in our gardens for the blue iguana, that they can have things to eat, that we can help protect them.
Oh, wow.
And then we'll take a tour of the garden, and we helped with Hatitude. We made all the arrangements for Hatitude for the National Trust. We did Family Fun Day in January. We plant different areas. We're getting ready to plant the Bodden Town Police Station, beautify there. We cleaned up the museum a few weeks ago. We're also going to work at the Pines, but we're waiting to do all these things when the rains come, so that whatever we plant has a better survival rate.
Yes. Oh, wonderful. And if someone is interested in finding out more about the Garden Club, do you guys have a presence like on social media, or how can they
We
reach
have
out?
a website,
Yes.
and there's an application there. And whenever we are public, we pass out application forms. Actually, our membership, this is our largest membership in its history. We have almost 120 members.
Wow.
Now, some of those are honorary,
Yes.
but last month we had a fun meeting with a hat parade, and we had 14 participants, and that was a lot of fun, using natural things on our hats. And then we took a tour of the Bowles Garden, and that was beautiful. And
Must be the children's garden at the Botanic Park.
right, our main activity that we're involved in is the Children's Garden at the Botanic Park. So we have funds set aside to finish that off for their maze, I think it is,
Right.
that we're sponsoring.
Wow. Beautiful.
So we do the Pines birthday party. Unfortunately, we haven't done it since last year,
Yes,
because we're not
because of
permitted to
COVID,
go
yeah.
there. But we did Golden Age Home in West Bay planting right before COVID. Unfortunately, a lot of that has died because it wasn't maintained. But we are very active. And we encourage everybody to plant trees in particular. And we wanted to plant along the Linford Pearson Highway lots of trees, but we were told we can't do it because they're getting ready for the additional lanes.
All right.
So hopefully we'll be able to at least plant a few there when that's completed.
Okay. Wonderful. Thank you
Thank you
so
for
much.
asking us. We're happy to share.
Absolutely. So, folks, this is the Garden Club of the Cayman Islands. This is a few of their members here. Reach out to them. They're online. You can find out more about what they do. It sounds like a lot of beautification projects. And of course, as we're celebrating Earth Day, and it should be every day should be Earth Day, but one of the important things that we can do for Mother Earth to help her restore herself is the planting of trees and plants and flora, all very, very important aspects of what we should be doing to help the earth replenish. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, so much.
Thank you.
When you see something like this, always look
Oh,
up,
let's give her
okay?
the mic so we can make sure that
This
people
is a pot nut. Can you tell us about, Berna? About this importance of this tree?
Okay.
The pot nut? Yes, the pot nut. Some people call it pot nut. But
The pot nut has a beautiful flower as well, and the trunks were used to make the ribs of boats. When the gentleman Smith was here building his boat to sail away after he was shipwrecked here back in the late 1800s, he used the pot nut, or plot nut as some people called it, but I know it as pot nut, and the ribs were made from this tree. And the more we can protect it by doing this to it, then the more we have. Because we don't want this to disappear, because this is all part of our heritage.
Yes.
It's very salt tolerant, and you can see all the beautiful trees with the beautiful trunks
Yes.
around here, as well as the grapes. And this tree here with the orange flowers is the
Which
cardia
one?
tree.
Oh, right.
And that was used as sandpaper, because
You can see that.
that's a nickname for the tree, cordia or sandpaper, because we didn't have sandpaper back in the day, and my father used it on his furniture for fine little products, that when he wanted something fine and good.
There's a lot of the orange leaves on the ground where they're falling, right?
That might be a leaf right there.
Yes. Nice. So is this something you guys just found here, or did
Yeah,
you
this
actually
just
plant
garden.
this?
See, we have almond
Oh.
trees there too.
So you're just putting a little bit of a bed around it to...
Right, so it doesn't get stepped on.
Yes, wow. Yeah.
This is the cordia there.
This
And,
here?
Yeah.
Okay.
And see, the big tree has orange flowers, but it's weird.
Right.
But if
Oh,
you
wow.
feel the leaf, feel it.
Oh, wow, it's very abrasive. Yes.
So another name is the sandpaper tree. My father used to send me here to pick them when across the street. He had his furniture store, and we would have to pick it and take it for him to use when he didn't have sandpaper. There's the little orange flower.
Yeah, I see a lot of the little orange flowers all over. Isn't that amazing? Never knew that, folks. You learn something new every day. Thank you so much. I know. Beautiful. So, folks.
And of course, I have to tell you a little bit about Smith Bacadere.
Yes.
We had 3 points, but the utmost one up there is Third Point, and that's where we used to go to jump off. Well, it's broken off now, and it's eroded. We used to have gravel there, but it's broken off. You can still jump there some, but that's very special. So when you hear us talking about Third Point, that's where
Right.
Third Point
Oh,
is.
that's where that little area right over there.
Way
Wow.
there in his mother, and I was probably about 4 or 5. Threw us off of that and said, swim around.
Oh my gosh.
I swam.
You made it. You made it.
But this was where we played and swam,
Yes.
fished, gathered sea grapes,
Yes.
came and played marbles and threw our gigs, everything.
Yeah.
Yes, it means coming and going. And the ladies from West Bay come up from Captain Benson's boat to disembark to go all over where the schools are on Harmon's Way and Webster's Estates to pick tops so that they could make rope in their baskets and so forth. Then he would wait. He was always come across our house and wait for the women all day and then take them back. When we got more roads, then he started in his truck, bringing them here. But the term back there is embarcado, which is Spanish. And it meant coming and going, embarking
Right.
and disembarking.
Right.
Embarking, yeah.
Oh, wow.
And Smith was shipwrecked 1883, I believe it was. I'm not sure the exact date. And he was shipwrecked in Spots, along with some of the Crichton family. Well, he didn't like it, and he moved here. And when he saw the coconut trees, he decided he was going to build a boat and leave, because that was his only means to leave the island, because we were so isolated.
Right.
Well, it took him 2 years, and he finally finished. I think they said it was about 25 feet, this boat. So we finished this boat. He finished the boat, and then he sailed away, and he's never been heard or seen of since. So the South Sounders named it Smith Bacadere.
Right.
And I really get upset, and I correct people when they say Smith Cove.
Yes.
It's all my life.
It's good.
And yes, and we petitioned, and actually my brother and a couple other people got the sign made up and got it changed to Smith Bacadere and published it there. So it's not Cove, it is
The proper
the
name.
Bacadere.
Yes.
And I think if that's what it was named originally, we need to stick to that
Yes.
and respect our ancestry a little bit.
Absolutely.
So it's Bacadere.
That's
And
such
we
an
also
amazing
have other
story.
Bacaderes. We have the Georgetown Bacadere, which we're supposed to go there at the yacht club this morning for breakfast and following our cleanup here. And we have the West Bay Bacadere. And we had the other Hogstye Bay in town, which is where all the turtles used to come in, and they would lay them on their backs until they were butchered. Right there at the little south terminal.
Wow. So much history.
I
right?
know.
So no one ever heard of Mr. Smith again. So they
No.
don't know if he survived his journey
No.
or. Wow, that's truly amazing. Well, thank you, Miss Berner. You're such a wealth of information.
I'm happy to share it because I don't want it lost.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Thank
Appreciate
you for
it.
selecting us to the
So yes, so folks, again, Cayman history. There's so many people who know bits and pieces. We need to make sure that we are sharing this. This is part of our, we can pass it on orally. We should put it in writing and make sure that our children appreciate the importance of all of these things so that they can know why they don't want to develop a property like this and why you want to preserve it and leave it as is. And I must tell you, it has so many wonderful trees and shaded area here. It's just absolutely beautiful. So folks, this is another NPO here in the Cayman Islands that I think you should check out. They obviously offer a lot to their members. And here's I don't know if you see these little, she was talking about those, the tree that produces these little yellow, orange flowers, and there they are. They're kind of falling on the ground, as you can see. Really prominent in this area, which is right underneath the tree. So absolutely beautiful, very, very gorgeous. So thank you guys so much for tuning in. We're going to grab a number of different locations today if we can, and definitely we will post this up for all to view and share. Okay, good morning, folks. Good morning. Hope that all of you had a fabulous weekend. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. I trust that you enjoyed our little feature segment this morning. I had a great weekend, actually, and I'm going to tell you guys all about it. And I think the highlight of my weekend was definitely the Earth Day cleanup and all of the thousands of people that registered and that were out and about participating in that. I think we have an obligation to do what we can to try to preserve our Earth as much as possible. We certainly take a toll on Mother Earth. So I think that, the flip side of that is that we must replenish in any way that we possibly can. So we put that little video together to show you guys what was going on over the weekend, who was out and about. And like I said, literally thousands of people signed up for that annual Earth Day cleanup that the Chamber and many other corporate sponsors are involved in every single year. I think we need to do them more often, but that is the big annual event. I think that it would be great if we can do them once a month. But there are organizations that do them. For example, there's Plastic Free Cayman. They are very, very active in cleaning up our beaches and other areas, whether it's the Barkers in West Bay, North Side, East End. A lot of the Eastern districts, I think, sometimes don't get the attention that the 7 Mile Beach, West Bay area gets in terms of cleanup. But everywhere I went on Saturday morning, there were people on the roadside and the beaches. We started out, we did a family cleanup at Spots Beach with some of my husband's coworkers. So we started there and they picked up some garbage. At that particular beach, there's a lot of seaweed. So they actually had to go through a lot of the seaweed to find stuff, but they found needles and a lot of plastic and other things that really shouldn't be on our beaches. So good morning to Morna. Good morning, Marshall. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. Good morning, Leroy. Irvin is here. Richie, Donna, Larry from New York says it's 41 degrees in New York this morning. Nice and chilly. Good morning, Stan. So good to see you. Jade and Corrine are also here for it. Jade says she is live and direct. And we're going to talk about a few things here this morning that I think all of you will find interesting. Jasara, good morning. Carmelie's here. Miss Beulah's here. Miss Sue is here. Thank you, guys. Yes, Leroy, Miss Berna is such a wealth of information. So listen, you guys will remember. Hi, Barbara and Pauline. You guys will remember that during the election season, we had a segment called Conversations With. At that particular time, we were focused just on the candidates because I felt like we all needed to know a little bit more about the people who are running for political office. I was interested to know their stories and who they are and where they've come from, and sort of what their professional background was, what their personal background is, and that sort of thing. So we are going to continue those conversations with, and it's not going to necessarily be with politicians. It's going to be with all members of our community. So I am so excited to be able to tell you that I have been making a list of individuals that I would like to interview. And of course, you can send me names and recommendations and stuff as well. I was talking to my girlfriend yesterday, and she was giving me a lot of people who were like in their 70s and 80s, a lot of older Caymanians, which, as you can appreciate, we need to record some of their life story because, they don't have the benefit of thinking they've got another 10 years necessarily. We don't know. They may have way more than some of us that are a lot younger than them. But we don't know. So, I think at the end of the day, we need to preserve that history. They have a lot of oral history. They have a lot of stories. Sometimes it's personal stories about how they got where they are, about them and their families. But collectively, that's what makes us a community. So I think that those stories have incredible amount of value, and we need to ensure that we are providing some sort of way of capturing that information. So right in that garden club, there are people there who were like founding members of the garden club. They were one of the founding members of the orchid club. And the sort of challenging thing about elderly Caymanians, a lot of them are camera shy. They don't necessarily want to talk about themselves because, they don't want to come across as bragging or anything like that. But that's not what it is. It's just that you're sharing your story with your people so that we can, get a sense of where we've all come from, I think. And Miss Berna, Miss Karen Thompson, there's so many people like that, Mr. Dick Arch. I mean, they are all like fabrics of this Caymanian community. And as we continue to grow and as we continue to, integrate with others, it's less, I don't want to say it's less interesting. I don't want to say our story is less interesting, but in some ways, those early pioneer stories are the most interesting because they really endured a lot and they know about relations and histories and a lot of the stuff that if no one told you, you wouldn't have a clue. Like someone was saying to me recently, oh, that person's actually related to you and here's how. And I was like, really? I never knew that. They're like in their 90s and I never knew that they were related. And it explains some relations when I think about it because they were really close to my aunt that I grew up with in the States. And I'm thinking, oh, well, that means that they would have been cousins. And maybe that sort of explained their closeness and stuff as well, which they maintained throughout their entire lives until my aunt died in her 80s, right? So we're going to have more of those. Like I said, if you have any recommendations, please send those through to us. I think we need to capture those interviews, archive them, and definitely share them with all of you because I know a lot of you are super interested in hearing those stories. So Louis, good morning to you. Thank you so much. He says it's tea time and it's hot, but it's a cold 37 degrees in Detroit. They're expecting a high of 55 today. Wow. Yeah, take your jacket with you. Good morning to Bruce. We're going to talk about that here in a second, about CIBC terminations. We're going to get there, Bruce. Bruce just always comes out of the barn like really super hyper focused on what he wants to discuss. Good morning, Jackie. Good morning, Damien. Rocky iguanas love eating plot nuts. And, I've never heard of a plot nut tree until this weekend. So I'm telling you, the wealth of information that is available to us through all these people in our community, I think is just amazing. You know what else is really amazing to me is how involved they are. Like Miss Berna is involved in everything, I swear. Shirley is involved in everything. So, she's in the garden club. She loves anything, I think, environmental, but she's really big, obviously, on protecting her environment. And that's why she's part of the CPR group to try to stop that port because they felt like the damage that port would have caused would have been something that we couldn't ever get back, right? And even the development plan, the proposed redevelopment plan for Smith Barcadier was going to destroy a lot of trees that are there. I mean, that area has a condensed, for such a small little area, it has a condensed, just plethora of trees, of foliage. Like there's so many trees, and lo and behold, we actually have some trees that are on the endangered list. And like she said, they don't replant really well. So not every tree can be transplanted to another location. Sometimes when you rip them out, that means that they're going to die. And that entire area where people go camping and they have so much shade during the Easter camping season would have been completely demolished and made into a parking lot. And not only would we have lost all of the foliage and trees in that area, but we would have lost, by extension, a Caymanian tradition of being able to camp on the beach, because nobody's going to camp in a parking lot. I mean, let's be honest here, right? So I don't know what the thinking was or the logic behind that project, but it seems to have been largely misguided. So good morning to Lulu. Good morning, Miss Darlene from the UK. Good morning, Natasha. Olivia's here. Yes, Louis. And by the way, big shout out to Louis. I don't have them with me, but I'm going to show them maybe on tomorrow's show. Louis sent us a little care package from Detroit, which I'm now in possession of. And I want to show you guys what it is. It's like super cool. And something that was made with obviously a lot of love and from the heart. So Leroy says, protect our heritage. Good morning, Linda. Linda says, blue, green jobs from the next government. Let's hope so. Ms. Sue says, so sad about what happened to the employees. Oh, yes, we're going to talk about that. Gigi, good morning. Not changing the name preserves the history. And you know what? I had never heard, thank you so much, Irvelyn. I had actually never heard of that story before about Mr. Smith. I just never heard of it. So I thought, oh my gosh, there's a reason why it's called Smith Barcadere. Like sometimes I call it Smith Cove. And now I know why Miss Berna would be offended by me calling it Smith Cove, because she's like, it's a Barcadere, and here's what Barcadere means. I'm like, oh, okay. So yes, I think it's also very important to preserve why we name certain things the way that we name them. But, if you don't have that understanding, then you can't put the respect behind it, right? So I'm thinking, oh, Smith Cove, Smith Barcadere, who cares? It's interchangeable. Well, when she explained to me the reason why we call it Smith Barcadere and the history of Mr. Smith himself, how he took 2 years to build this boat and then goes on this journey and then completely disappears. It's like, whoa, that's amazing. But it also places a significance on using the proper name and allowing you to have respect for that from a historical perspective. So thank you so much, Miss Berna. But again, we've really got to do better by our environment. The amount of garbage that was picked up this weekend is only a small indication of what is out there. And honestly, we should be ashamed of ourselves. Like every single time we throw down anything and engage in any degree of littering, I think we need to recognize the harm that is actually being done to the environment. So let's clean up, folks. We got a lot of work to do, basically, in terms of that. So good morning, Miss Valdine. By the way, Miss Valdine, happy Monday to you. Miss Valdine is joining us from Cayman Brac. Your mug is on the way to the Brac. So please keep an ear out for a phone call today. The person is en route, I think this morning. They're coming down on one of the flights and they have your contact number. And they will be calling you to make sure that you get your CMR mug. So we're technically out of CMR mugs right now. Now, I know a lot of you waited until the last minute, and all of you were messaging me last week, oh, I need a mug. And it's like, we literally had 10 left last week. So I'm placing another order. We will have more en route. So please stay tuned for that. And as soon as we get them, I will let you guys know, because I've got a waiting list, because some of you said, put me on the list. I do have you on the list. Shion says, I'm very conscious about littering it. I'd rather walk till I see a trash bin before tossing garbage. Yes. And you know what people are tossing? Sometimes it's the small things, like the bottle caps. There were tons of those collected at Smith Barcadere in the sand. And I don't know if you ever stepped in one of those before, but it's not a pleasant feeling. There is tons of plastic. This whole concept of us getting rid of single-use plastic is something that I think needs to be seriously looked into and seriously considered. It's not good for the environment. And people just discard all sorts of things, cigarette butts, like when they smoke, they just throw those on the ground, like they don't care. And, you know, dogs and other animals pick these things up and they will actually eat them. They get into the water, they pollute the fish that we turn around and then eat. You know, the mercury levels in a lot of our fish is considered extremely high. So we've got to all do better. I mean, you know, I always keep a little plastic garbage bag in my car, because even sometimes in the car you have garbage that's produced and you're like, ugh, sticking it in the little different little like cup holders and stuff. No. I just keep a little bag and then I put it in the bag, and once the bag gets half full, whatever, that gets thrown out. And, you know, you've got to teach your kids not to litter, to pick stuff up. Now, one of the things that I struggle with my daughter, she doesn't necessarily litter, but what she wants to do is everywhere she goes, she wants to take something out of Mother Nature. So we go to the beach. She wants to collect all the seashells. She sees a crab. She wants to take the crab home. Trust me, we've had crabs in our house before. The frogs, like everything has to come home. And so now I'm teaching her, because her dad is he's a little bit country. You know, he grew up, you know, he's a St. Mary country boy. So he grew up with a family that had a bee production, you know, they did honey. So his father was actually a beekeeper, and they did farming and goats and all sorts of stuff. So he really loves and appreciates the outdoors and loves nature. And she has that about her as well. Even at a young age, she always wants to go exploring. Everything is an exploration. So she's like, no, I don't want to sit here. I want to go exploring. She loves being outdoors. But the concept that you take things with you is something I'm having to like get out of her head. I'm like, no, you have to respect things and leave them where they are. That's part of respecting Mother Nature as well. You don't just take things just because you can. So, you know, leave the frogs where they are. Trust me. Let's just leave everything where it's at. And so she's slowly, you know, she's had soldier crabs that she's brought home before. And of course, she doesn't understand that when she brings them home, you have to let them go, because they will die if they're not able to change out their shells and that sort of thing. So she's learning slowly but surely. So we do have a couple other things that we're going to be discussing this morning. So Eddie says, blessed good morning. One question: can Ms. Turner and Ms. Seymour work together to keep the high standards of healthcare high for the Caymanian people? Mr. Panton, also Mr. Wiltz, Mrs. Wiltz, and Mr. Hugh to keep roadworks together, please. And the government needs to step in against these companies that are laying off Caymanians. It needs to stop Mr. Panton and also the PR outstanding money for the PR. Wow, that's a whole list of stuff, Eddie. We will ensure that Mr. Panton gets your message. And I'm sure that he is keen to get all of those things done. This government has to hit the ground running for more reasons than one, obviously. And I think at the end of the day, they have a lot of work to do. And there has to be some degree of continuity, right? So this is why it's incredibly important that as Caymanians, we understand that when we elect officials, we can't elect small-minded officials who are going to go in there and undo something just because the previous government had done it. So I just got a message from someone in our elderly community who has benefited from one of the streaming devices that I've been telling you guys about. And he just said it was so nice to be able to tune into the show this morning and watch it full screen on his TV, just like he's watching TV. Yes, that's possible. We set one up on, I think it was Friday last week in West Bay. So that went extremely well. And we also have persons in East End and North Side that I'm doing early this week. And then someone in Newlands that hopefully I'm going to get to later on today. So we're rolling them out, folks. At this point, we have a first batch that was donated courtesy of an anonymous donor. So thank you so much to that individual. And we ensure that you're able to get all of the local news content, including CMR, CIG TV, Radio Cayman, even Cayman CrossTalk and Cayman Compass, as much local news as you wish to have. So Darlene, good morning to you. Good morning to Mr. Bishop. He says, thanks for your contribution. You're most welcome. Cameron is here. Before that, it was called Webster's Beach. Is that Smith Marketeer that we're talking about? I think we need to get someone, and this is another reason why things like protecting our beach access is so incredibly important. And we're going to talk to Mr. Billy about that at some point as well. So listen, amongst the weekend events, we still have tons of stuff to go over. So I want to talk about Mr. Panton's event on Saturday afternoon. Chris Saunders had a little celebration event as well. So I want to talk about all of those things. But of course, there's always one or two things that seems to pop off on the weekends and to go viral. And there was a viral video, Punctish, Fleece, and Irvlin. You guys may have seen this because we got it a gazillion times yesterday. And sometimes when we get a video, I kind of wait to see what the response will be to it. And of course, when I saw this one, I thought, ooh, okay, let's see how this plays out. And I waited until kind of last evening to then put it up because I just started getting it so many times. And people are like, have you seen this? Have you seen this? And I know that people in the community want to discuss these things. Now, we're going to watch the video. And we do have Mr. Woody Foster, who's joining us this morning on the program and who's going to tell us what his investigations have found out thus far about this video. Now, first of all, let me just say this. I have always found Mr. Woody to be very, very engaging. Whatever questions you have of him and his organization, he's always stepping up and more than happy to answer questions. He will carry out investigations. You know, over the years, Foster's has been, I would say, my favorite grocery store because I feel like I'm in there every other day. And, you know, no organization is perfect. And you're only, as far as I'm concerned, as good as your weakest link. And when you have a company with hundreds of employees, it is hard to keep track of some of the people who are not always doing what they need to be doing. And sometimes you just don't know unless someone brings it to your attention. So there've been instances in the past where I've been like, you know, I called in and inquired about a product and they said, no, they didn't have it. And I was like, oh, let me just go buy anyway. And there was the product. How am I supposed to buy it if I don't know it's here? You know, so I know Woody has been working, and his entire management team and his family have been working extremely hard to try to keep the level of customer service as high as possible. So let's take a look at the video. Like I said, it went viral over the weekend, and then we will have a word with Woody in terms of what he was able to find out, because Woody's not the type of person who's going to just tell you what he thinks about it. He's the type of person that says, okay, I see this side of it. I see what the video shows. Let me carry out a proper investigation, ask some questions, talk to some people, and try to get a more 360 perspective of exactly what transpired.
Let's go, come on.
Carnation med 2. 1, 2.
I know you may come in there, walk out with the bag. I know you may come in there.
Flower, Jamaican flower.
My wife will have to see
Fruit juice.
My wife will have to
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 fruit juice.
I hope so kind of marriage.
Nabisco crackers.
I'm Henry, you good? Henry.
That's med 2.
Wow, that's it, man.
Every time.
What they accuse you? What they accuse you?
No, anytime you work here, this security that wants to check the bag. They want to check your, you want to check your own private bag. They have no right to do that. I want to sit the family here. My wife don't have to see
Dr. Organic, the other one from the doctor.
We don't have to see it. Okay, pack up the thing back. Let's go.
Yellow corn tree. I don't care. Yellow corn tree. Pepper 2.
avocado too.
I don't know, sir.
Orange, a bag of orange.
This is the family don't have to steal nothing from Foster's. The cameras are there.
Sir,
It's
we're
behind
not
the cashier.
saying she's stealing.
That's
It's
it.
their job to check the bag.
Yeah, but they don't check it in. How come they don't check people in the daytime?
Random.
Them check some, them don't check some. Them check night shift, they don't check morning shift. What is the sense? If you're gonna check everybody. That is my point.
Stop shouting.
I don't steal. I never steal in my life.
Well, she could talk home now. She's off faster time now. She did some of her work in that
That's
hour.
right.
Just like the security guard, when he's come up, he's like, he can't do nothing, nobody else.
Oh, I'm gonna handbag. I'm gonna throw out all the pad and everything. I'm gonna try my purse.
Hey, so let's go. Let's go.
You want check?
Let's go. You have to do that.
Thank you, babe. Be my witness.
Next time I will come down. Next time I will come down, I will go back myself. And see who could stop me and
Thanks, please. Come.
Okay, so obviously that was a very emotional video to watch. You know, it's one of those things that I don't know if anyone has ever been accused of something that they didn't do, but I think we've all probably been in that situation, whether it was a parent or whatever, that thought we were up to something and, you know, we didn't do it. And there's nothing worse than actually being accused of something you didn't do. But at the same time, I also know from a business perspective that one of the things that businesses struggle with all the time is shrinkage, you know, merchandise and goods that disappear. And so they have to deploy certain measures to ensure that that is reduced. And shrinkage happens internally from your staff as well as externally from customers who come into your business. So we're going to learn a little bit about, you know, what's going on here. I think you guys will remember a few weeks ago, maybe about 2 weeks ago, I actually posted a video, a post about a driver who had driven off at a gas station and they had not paid for their gas. Now, a lot of us make excuses for bad behavior. And I've said this before, we really need to learn to stop this. Some of you are like, oh, maybe they forgot to pay for the gas. Listen, I am 47 years old, people, and I've been driving since, I did driver's ed in high school. So since I was 16 years old, I have been driving, and all that time I've been buying gas, and I've had multiple cars. And, you know, I have never in my life driven away from a fuel station and not paid for the gas. In fact, in the US, you got to pay before you pump. So you're definitely not driving away without it. But here in Cayman, it took some adjusting when I moved back in 96. Oh, somebody's going to pump my gas for me. I don't even have to get out of the car. But I have never, and I don't know how people do it, driven away and not paid for my gas. Now, mistakes can happen. But as soon as you drive away and 5 or 10 minutes later, you go, oh my gosh, I didn't pay for the gas. Do you not turn back and go and pay for your gas? Now, listen, the young lady who sent that to me said that there were so many instances that people were leaving and not paying that it appeared to be a very deliberate act. And I have since spoken to a number of gas station owners, and they said, Sandy, it happens so much and we lose so much money because of it. Well, the gas station doesn't lose the money because what they do is they hold the employees responsible for that loss. So that's going to come out of their paycheck. So imagine now you're working, maybe you're getting $6, $8 an hour, right, at the gas station. And then you've got these rogue gas thieves who drive off without paying $60, $75, depending on the type of vehicle. And that's going to come out of your paycheck after health insurance and everything else. And it's just wrong. We've all gotten used to enhanced security measures. When we walk out of stores, we got to show a receipt. Sometimes they want to look through your bag. You guys will remember, we didn't have the show at this time, but when A.L. Thompson's first started, where they go through the actual receipt and they want to take out everything out of the bag, I thought, I don't mind them doing it, but it seems really inefficient for them to do it in the way that they do because it slows you down tremendously. Why not just have the security guard stationed at the checkout counter? So as they're swiping it, you know, you're seeing that it's coming up on the receipt and that I'm actually paying for it instead of making me take it all out of the bag again. But anyway, I digress. We do have Woody here. And of course, Mr. Foster's extremely busy. Good morning, Woody. Thank you so much for joining us this morning.
Morning, Sandy. How are you?
I'm good. I'm good. Irvelyn says that she misses you. I think she's having some recollections of her time during COVID when you were so instrumental in coming on the program and telling us everything about food shortages and what was going on in the grocery industry. But I trust that you had a good weekend. Obviously, you've seen this viral video. And when I messaged you yesterday about it, in your typical, very calm, cool, and collected fashion, you said that you had seen it, and of course you wanted to investigate it further before you could comment. So tell us what you have discovered in light of this video.
Well, I haven't discovered anything nefarious. Haven't discovered. I suppose this will be debatable. I suppose as we move on through the day and however long this stays viral. Where we've done anything wrong, it is company policy for the guard to do random checks of whether it's goods purchased or through their personal bags, because unfortunately, theft is a very, very normal part of our day-to-day. And we have customers who steal, we have staff who steal. But the majority of our customers, we don't have a problem with. The majority of our staff, we don't have a problem with. But people make decisions, and it is what it is. We have a zero tolerance policy on theft. I take it as a personal affront when somebody steals from us. So I really, and I'm not apologizing for that. If somebody makes a decision to come in and steal, fine. But if caught, I have a zero tolerance on that. And I'm not going to make apologies for that. Now, in this instance, and I don't want that to be the lead off for this, under no circumstances are we accusing Valerie or anybody else for theft. It was a random check. 2 minutes before she was asked, her and another employee who were checking out at the same time, the deli manager, the manager was also checked before leaving. Supervisor at the same time as Valerie walked out the door without listening to the security guard, had hers checked. So there's no issue in terms of her being singled out. Now, when the guard called her and her friend over, and then the other employee who then came up at the same time, he very casually checked out the two ladies, and then asked the assistant store manager who was on duty at the time, what should I do? Because she very clearly heard me. I went to the door, asked her to come back. She did come back, and you can't hear what's being said, but you can see it on the camera. And proceeded then to walk back out the door. He continued to do his job of checking the other staff members. And then after they were finished, then at that point, then they went outside to say, can you please come back in and just declare your items? That's all needed to happen. So this extremely unfortunate video was then filmed with the, I think it came across as employee unfairly accused of theft. Nobody was accusing anybody of theft. It's just policy. The guard was doing his job, and she made a decision to disregard that and then make a public show of it. And I think, honestly, that's wrong. It's really wrong. This is not the first time that this has happened with this employee, and she knows the policy. She's been with us for a very, very long time. Makes such a public spectacle over it, and then now for those in our society who would just automatically assume that we're the bad guy, it's disheartening, and it really makes me feel really bad this morning. And I know she obviously feels bad, and her husband and child were there, and so the whole thing was completely and utterly unnecessary. But we are, so we can't turn back the hands of time and stop it. We can only move forward. So whatever abuse society feels we need to take, then fine, we'll do that. But quite frankly, as a company who does care about its employees, we don't do anything wrong, because whether the society chooses to believe it or not, we have a theft issue, just like every other country. And we protect our business. I mean, we have employees that walk right through the front door with an entire shopping cart full of groceries.
Oh my gosh.
It happens. It is what it is. We deal with it every day. We have 700 employees and thousands of customers. It's going to happen. And we have to protect our business. But I don't think we should have to apologize for that.
Yeah. No, and listen, Woody, as a small business owner, I have to tell you that I completely sympathize with your position. And I can't even imagine in terms of dollar amount what we're talking about here. But I agree. It's like Mr. Hamady from Tortuga. He likewise, had a zero tolerance for theft within his organization. And we know, for example, there's a young lady now who's in court being charged with another gentleman for actually planning and orchestrating a robbery at his store. And so it's sad to think that the very people that you employ and that you give job opportunities to, talking about biting the hand that feeds you. But, in business, I guess there's no sense of loyalty. And certainly everyone has to be treated the same when it comes to security protocols and procedures. I have worked in retail in the US, and I'm very, very familiar with managers, store clerks. Everyone is treated exactly the same. You might have additional, keys and access cards and that sort of thing, but there has to be procedures and checks and balances in place to keep everyone in check, because anyone is capable of stealing. I've seen family members who were part owners in businesses steal companies blind right here in the Cayman Islands to the tune of hundreds of thousands of dollars. So I'm sure, Woody, you yourself will have, certain security protocols and measures that you have to go through. But I'm glad you explained it to us in terms of the part that the video didn't capture, because this is the thing with videos and social media. They only capture, it's like that balance sheet, right? It only captures a very specific point in time. You don't know what happened before. And honestly, you don't even know what happens afterwards a lot of times. And I'm so happy that you explained that because when I looked at it, I'm thinking, why is this happening outside? And I think that was a logical question for a lot of people. They themselves were like, this doesn't make any sense. Why is, the security guard doing this check outside? And she's having to throw all her stuff on the floor. But as you have now clarified for us, she was actually requested to do this inside, and she basically refused to do it.
Correct.
Wow.
If I could just do a little bit of an aside and go back a little bit, that because I know some of the abuse we're taking is we don't give Caymanians a chance, and we blah blah blah. We don't take care of our employees. That individual that you alluded to that worked for Tortuga, we actually hired her, given her a second chance. So it doesn't really sound like a company who doesn't care about its employees or willing to give people a chance or take advantage of people.
Wait, say that again.
So that individual you just alluded to with Tortuga, we hired that individual.
Oh, wow. You're kidding.
No, I'm not.
I mean, I wouldn't have hired that individual, but okay, Woody. You're a very kind-hearted man. No, and you've actually said this, all jokes aside. You have said this to me before, because there was a young lady I remember who was in court for stealing some scam, a TV from Price Right, where she returned it but kept the money or something. It was like less than $200, and obviously she went to court and whatever happened, right? Yeah. And I saw someone working there. I don't think it's actually her, but someone who looks a lot like her. And I remember messaging you and saying, Woody, does that girl work for you guys again after stealing from you? And your first response, I just thought it was so interesting, was like, I don't think so, but we do believe in second chances. We do try to work with people who probably might not be able to find employment anywhere else, sort of thing. And I was like, wow, okay, well, that's great. So like you said, I think people need to be fair to you guys as an organization. And just personally, I know that you guys are involved in so much in terms of donations, nonprofits. I mean, anytime I put out a request in my news group, I need a donation of diapers or whatever, Woody is one of the first people that's always like, how can I help? I mean, they just really step up, and they don't need credit for it. But I think when people are making these comments based on a single video, they need to holistically try to appreciate what these organizations do within the community as a whole. So that's really interesting, Woody, that any idea why she refused to do this inside and perhaps a more private area that would not have Was she just having a bad day? I mean, have you spoken to her yet? Maybe she was just having an off moment. I know we all have those moments. Sometimes you catch me in a bad day and I'm going to tell you something, you know? So
No,
maybe that was it.
no, we have a meeting at 9 o'clock with her to
Yeah.
obviously not something we would discuss on air.
Yeah, sure.
A personal thing, but I really just wanted to come on and say that we are very sorry that this is out in the ether. It is what it is. Social media has that ability, and which is a good thing. I don't have any problem with it at all, to be completely honest with you, because quite frankly, I think social media, with its pluses and minuses, at the end of the day, is a good thing. And when people make a mistake, well, that's just how it goes. You have to live with that. But I really do not believe that the company did anything wrong at this stage of the game. We have a duty to protect our interest. And the security guard was, because I saw a lot of abuse of him, that he was X, Y, and Z. He was just doing his job. This really did not need to happen. Plain, just simply didn't need to happen. I don't need to go back and say if this had happened, and
Sure.
It just simply didn't.
It could have been handled completely differently.
And it happened how it happened. And all society saw was what they saw. They didn't see anything before. They didn't see anything after. But it really make any difference what I have to say here. People are going to believe what they believe. But I can assure you that we will continue to do the best that we can do. We will try to take care of our employees. We'll try to take care of our customers, and we will live by, the rules and regulations that we put in place to try and take care of our employees and try and take care of our customers. Really the best that we can do.
Yep. Okay, Woody. Well, we appreciate you coming on. Like I said, these things happen. Those of us who are in the community and own businesses, that stuff happens. And I always appreciate management teams that just address it head on and are willing to speak directly to the people, which is exactly what you've done here this morning. So we appreciate that. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Have a good day, Sandy.
All right, Woody, you too.
Take care.
All right, folks. So again, that's Mr. Woody Foster, who joined us from Foster's Supermarket. I'm going to read some of your comments here in relation to this. So yeah, I mean, obviously the video did go viral. It is what it is. Like he said, you can't undo what has happened, but perhaps we need to give them the benefit of the doubt, realizing that there's a little bit more to this story than meets the eye, which is normally the case. You guys know how this goes. There's never any just one side of the story. There are always two sides. They say there's their side, your side, and somewhere in between lies the middle. So there's some people who are making comments in terms of, a lot of the Filipino workers are prejudicial. They're not checking their friends. They're not checking whatever. He has said, listen, they know that right before this incident happened, her manager and others were subject to the same exact protocols and the same exact checks. She, for whatever reason, didn't stop when she was requested to stop inside. And again, that makes me wonder, why wouldn't you just stop inside? Listen, I get it. Maybe she was having a PMS moment. I don't know. She was just not in a good mood. She'd worked a long shift and she just wanted to get home. But I also get it from the perspective of when someone asks you to comply and you don't comply, that immediately raises red flags. I mean, why wouldn't you comply is what the person's thinking, right? So they're probably like, something shady is going on here. Now, does that mean that maybe they should revisit what their protocol and procedures are? Like one thing, I'm not telling Mr. Foster how to run his business because I'm obviously not in the grocery business, but one thing I would do, and I don't know how well this would work and how employees would feel about this, but I would say no grocery shopping after you've worked a shift, right? So let's not commingle. Let's not have you in your Foster's uniform in the store grocery shopping. If you want to grocery shop, you either send a family member or you come on your day off and you grocery shop. Now, clearly that's going to be inconvenience to them because it is easy when you're there to just be like, oh, let me just grab a few things and then I'm on my way home. But that could have potentially avoided some of this. Maybe she wouldn't have been in such a funk or a bad mood because, she'd been working all day and she's probably tired and just didn't want to be bothered. I'm just saying. El Rey says, never forgotten to pay for gas. I did forget to pay for my drinks once at Country and Western. That's because you were drinking. That's probably why. So Gigi says she's an employee, should go to the security herself to be checked out. It's her duty. She's overreacting. She's stressed out because of the long day of work. And that's kind of what I think exactly has happened. Magdalene says, morning, persons come into a small business and get a service done and then say that they forgot their wallet. Persons are very dishonest, some for as small as $10 and $15. Now, I had to do this last week, Magdalene. I'm going to tell you what happened to me last week. On, I think it was Wednesday, I got an email from Cayman National, which, by the way, they have outsourced. We're going to talk about CIB here in a second. But CNB has outsourced their card security department, apparently, because I got an email from someone, and when I tried calling them, I got to find out that they were actually not in the Cayman Islands, they're in Trinidad. So I said, okay. We had to email back and forth, but they did try to make contact with me regarding a transaction on my card, on my debit card that was flagged for additional security checks. And so they were informing me that they had actually blocked my card. Well, as it turns out, I did not know who that transaction was from. I didn't recognize the company or the amount or anything that was done that day that I authorized to be done. And so they had to block my card. So I had an appointment then for later on Wednesday. As you guys know, Wednesday was a swearing-in day, right? Was it Wednesday? Yes. And so afterwards, I was like, oh, shoot. I forgot, because it was literally just an hour or two before my appointment, that I don't have access to this card. It's my only debit card. And of course, without a debit card, I can't even go to the ATM machine and get money. So I had to explain to my hairstylist, big shout out to Rocio, and those guys there that, we got a problem. I can't actually pay for my service today, but I'll be back tomorrow or whenever I get the new card, as soon as they can get me the new card. And I mean, they know me, they know I'm good for it, but I don't try to, just because people know you, I don't try to take advantage of that. I'm like, I bring my money and I pay, and unless something like this, very extraordinary and unusual happens, and I can explain to them what's going on. So they said, yeah, no problem, Miss Sandy, because every week, I go in and I book for myself and I book for Gianna. And I made sure that as soon as I got the card on Friday, I went back and I saw her, and I got a little top up on the hair anyway. And then I said, make sure to remember that I owe you from Wednesday. She said, oh yeah, we wrote it down and whatever. So things happen, but there's no excuse for not paying and not telling people or explaining to people why you're not paying. Sometimes I'm not a person that likes to walk with cash ever. So my debit card is my lifeline. And there are times when for that account, I only put so much in that account because I do use it a lot online for all of my transactions. I'm very security conscious. So I don't keep money in that account unless I know I'm going to spend it in a relatively short period of time. So if I'm ever compromised, you're not going to get much from me, right? So because of that, sometimes I go into the store and I'm like swiping my card, forgotten that, I made a purchase earlier and I didn't do the math. And there's no money. And I'm like, oh, shoot, give me a second. Let me log into my computer real quick. CNB, can you work on that mobile app for me? And then I'm able to transfer funds and, be on my way. But there's no excuse for theft, whether you're an employee, a non-employee, whatever. And there's no excuse for not trying to comply with when people have certain procedures that you need to follow. Because those procedures protect all of us. Listen, here's the bottom line. If you steal from a company, whether you're an employee or a customer of that company, external customer, that impacts their bottom line. Who do you think pays for shrinkage? You do recognize that we all pay for it at the end of the day, right? So this is why I don't get why people steal. It's not, you might think it's helping you, but you end up paying for it because they need to hire additional security. They need to put all these measures in place. And still they need to absorb those losses in some way or another. So to me, people who still have no concept of the trickle down effect and how quickly that trickles down right back to them, and they end up paying for it. And then they're complaining about the price of certain things. It's like, you don't get it, do you? Parky says, total respect, Mr. Foster. Thank you for all you do for the community. Sue says that's right, Morna. That's what they're supposed to do. This was so bad, and these darn security guards take it too far now. Treat people here. I don't know what Morna's comment was, but we have Melinda says she probably was having a bad evening and she was not in the mood. May have caused her to behave like this. After all, we're only humans, and that video is not necessarily needed to be on social media. Well, unfortunately, when people capture video, you know how that goes, honey child. It's going to go viral. Magdalene says there may be underlying personal issues that need to be addressed. That's her opinion. Yes, and I mean, I think she needs to be reminded of exactly what the procedure is. If a security guard asks you to stop inside the store and come to your security checkpoint, you have to do that. Someone else mentioned earlier, Sandra was saying how, oh yes, that comment is coming up. Aliano says you can't stop people from stealing, but it can be mitigated. A controlled staff entry and exit point to and from the store, plus pay your staff better income, and they will not steal from you. $200 to $300 is shit level income, but hey, that's just me. I don't think that that's necessarily true, Aliano, in terms of the income. If someone knows that they're getting paid $6 an hour and they don't have the skills to get a higher paying job or whatever, you don't accept that job and then steal from people. You know what I'm saying? To me, that's just a poor ass excuse for something you know you shouldn't be doing. If you can get a better paying job, i.e. you have the qualifications and so on, then by all means go do so. Why would you take a lesser paying job and then turn around and steal from people and say, well, if you paid me more, then I wouldn't have to steal from you? Well, if you invested in yourself more, then maybe you wouldn't need a minimum wage job. There will always be minimum wage jobs, no matter what the minimum wage is. Right? And there will be people who have it in their head that they don't deserve to be in that minimum wage category, regardless of what they themselves have done or haven't done with their lives. But that is no excuse for stealing. Sandra says, I was standing outside Foster's West Bay and saw Foster's worker chasing a well-dressed man walking out the door with a television on his shoulder. When she caught up with him, he put it down and ran across the parking lot into the road. It's not like he paid for that one. Michael says that after a certain number of years, there should be a level of trust. Really, Michael? No, honey child. Believe me, those are the ones who will, those are often the people who will disappoint you the most when you're in business. The people that you trusted the most, that you never thought in a million years this person would steal from me, they'd be the ones that be stealing. Unfortunately, you can't trust anybody. And I know that sounds horrible, but when you're in business, you've just got to keep the protocols across the board for every single person. Like I said, family members will steal from you. Family, it's a family business. And I've seen family members in different types of businesses that end up stealing. Remember that one security center? This was several years ago. Hundreds of thousands of dollars got stolen. That was one of the owner's own sister who had been working there in accounts. So you can't trust anybody. If you can't trust your sister in a family business, who else can you trust? And I'm sure it wasn't because her salary was only $300-400 a week. If you're a thief, like my aunt always said, two things in life never aspire to be: a thief and a liar. Because if you lie, you're going to steal. And if you steal, you're going to lie. Because those two go hand in hand. And she said, you know what? Give me some other kind of criminal, like even a murderer over a thief or a liar, because the murderer might have an excuse as to why they took someone's life. Maybe it was an accident, accidental homicide, whatever. But she's like, a thief and a liar is just dishonest at their core. And those are people that can never be trusted. So never mess up your good name with, you're a thief or you're a liar. Jasari says it's protocol for them to check your bags whenever you're leaving work, as I used to work Foster's before, and they check your receipts and check the items in the bag to make sure you paid for all the items. Like she said, though, some supervisors check who they want, just like the security, but as a staff member, she She knows this protocol, so she should have just made them check her so it didn't get that far. And now that we know that she actually refused to stop inside, how many of you are kind of reevaluating how you viewed that video? I know I am, because my biggest thing is like, why is this happening outside? And why is she having to throw everything on the ground? I mean, those poor, did she at some point say avocados were in there? Because I'm like, oh, honey child, you can't put those avocados in a salad now. They're going to be all bruised up. You know, avocados are very delicate. They can't take a lot of throwing around. So, and plus, I don't want my groceries on the ground outside where people are walking and so on. I don't know. Dash just says it sounds like he's not happy and heads are going to roll. Well, I think somebody should be reprimanded. If the security guard did wrong, we would expect for him to be reprimanded. If it turns out that he didn't do wrong, but it was her, well, she should be reprimanded. Call a spade a spade. And of course, Mr. Woody did say that that's now a personal employee thing. But she needs to know that this type of behavior, and apparently it's not the first time she's acted the fool. She needs to know that this type of behavior is simply not acceptable. Listen, again, I'm a business owner. And I know that sometimes you give people an inch and they're going to take the whole 10 miles, not even a mile. They're going to take 10 miles. And so you need to remind people, quite honestly, what you're all about. Melinda says, Foster's always believe in giving people a chance. Well, gosh, if they hired the girl who was involved, allegedly, she's been charged, not yet convicted, in the Tortuga robbery, none of y'all should be sitting here saying to me today that Foster's not going to give Caymanians a chance. Really. I know I wouldn't have hired her. I can tell you that straight up. I ain't hiring nobody who's robbed from another business because my poor little business couldn't handle it. And it certainly, even the allegation of such a thing certainly shows a certain mindset, but she's a mother with children. The husband was fired from his job months ago from another local retailer. Again, not showing up to work and doing the most and whatever. So, you know, when they come to you with their hard luck stories, a lot of businesses feel sorry for them. El Rey says all the drama wasn't necessary. If you know you're not stealing anything, why get all stressed out for nothing? Company policy is to do random checks. So if you don't like those rules, then go work somewhere else. Irvlin says you hire them, keep an eye on them, every move. So I think Gabby is not a fan. I don't know if I read her comment earlier, but I did see her saying that they don't hire Caymanians. Now I do see some Caymanians working there. Stop having security dig through the carts after you pay at the checkout. The item's already handled, and John, I think part of that is missing. Well, you see, here's the thing, right? This is why they have to dig through your cart. And I'm going to explain this to you as it was explained to me by another company. It's because sometimes the cashiers are the problem, right? They either forget to check people's stuff. So, you know, when you have the cart and you have the underneath section of the cart, that's why I try not to use that underneath section, because it is actually very easy to forget something in the underneath section of the cart and walk out with it. A couple times I've almost done that. Like I'll be passing the register after I paid and I go, oh shoot, there's my bleach down at the bottom. So I try to put everything in the main basket because I know that when I get to the register, I'm not like looking down underneath. I will forget the stuff that's on that little piece, right? So that's something I do for myself to make sure I'm paying for all the goods that I have picked up. But sometimes what happens is these cashiers are working in cahoots with other people. So yes, that's their friend. And you walk in, they're going to put something on the scale, pretend to bring it in and just scoot it over, and you don't actually pay for it. So it's not just the customers that are stealing. It's the customers in cahoots with the employees. So that is why they have had to start checking your receipts to see that what is in your cart has actually been paid for. Now, at the grocery store, I've never had that happen. Like, I don't think grocery stores have gotten that bad where they're checking like every item, right? Security is obviously there. And I think through security cameras and stuff like that, they're monitoring people. Remember years ago? Yes, Stephanie, I didn't even see your comment. Yes, girl. She says, I've known cashiers that have gotten fired for scanning some and not all items for friends and family. That's exactly what I'm talking about. I didn't even see your comment, Stephanie, but that's exactly what I'm saying. So that is like working together to steal from the company. Now they do it at Cost You Less, Price Right, the big ticket stores, because again, you can walk up to a register and somebody be like, scan everything but the big screen TV, girl. Let me walk out of here with that. And next thing you know, you walk out the door with a big screen TV that you didn't pay for. So, you know, they're counting the items, what's in your cart, and it happens. I know y'all go, when you go to the States, you go to BJ's, you go to Sam's Club. They don't give you bags and they're counting your items same way. Now, some security checkpoints are not the best because sometimes they'd be like, oh, it's you. They just check it off. But there's some people who are very diligent in doing their job and they're going to check. I see 5 items paid for in here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Good. Out the door. So yes, El Ray, I have no qualms about security measures at any of these companies, including Foster's. Good morning to Ms. Bonnie. Jessica says, I've already been told that she will most likely be suspended or fired. Obviously, it's speculation, but that was from employees who work there. Well, if she has done this before, and if she has a tendency to make a scene and to carry on like this, you could see why a company and management might be like, we're not really confident that this isn't going to happen again. And let's be very honest, this is bad reputational damage for Foster's. Whether she was in the wrong, the security guard was in the wrong, you know, this is making them look bad. Like I said, the countless amount of times that I got this yesterday, I was like, Lord Jehovah, this has gone viral. And so, you know, this gives people who are haters of Foster's an opportunity to jump on the bandwagon and be like, oh, well, Foster's doesn't want to do this and they don't want to hire Caymanians. And is it really a fair position to put them in? Bonnie says Foster's is good to me at Moritz, but needs a bigger store. Or good to be at Moritz, but needs a bigger store. In Central East End, as it's very bad business service here in East End and difficult to get to Savannah. Why not put one outlet like West Bay with a Price Right? Well, you know what, Bonnie? Maybe they would be able to do all of those things if they didn't have so many employees stealing from them. I'm just saying. There's always a cost to these things. And sometimes the cost is in, you know, trying to keep other expenses down. Maybe they can't open a bigger location because, I mean, there's lots of factors that when you run a business that sometimes non-business owners do not think about. Michael says random checks become less random if the same people are being checked all the time. Random checks become less random. My brain needs to work around that one, Michael. Random checks become less random if the same people, well, if everybody's being checked, then I don't know what the issue is. Melinda says it's drama. She doesn't think it should have been on social media. I don't know who recorded it, but it seems like it was just like a passerby. Which, you know, again, these things happen, and I don't have any issues with people recording stuff. Just last week, we saw that in America, that police officer was convicted for taking the life of Floyd. What was his name again? Oh, help me out here. But Mr. Floyd. And guess what? If that teenager hadn't stood there for almost 10 minutes and recorded that part of the incident, chances are he would have never been convicted. But when we saw that raw footage of his knee and his neck and the man foaming at the mouth and losing consciousness and other people saying, what are you doing? Get off of him. So I understand people's desire to want to record things when they see it. But as Mr. Woody said, a lot of times they don't always have the full story. And Jessica makes the point that some security guards just go on ridiculous as well. So, you know, they all need to know that everybody's going to be checked one way or the other. So if you are a security guard that is acting the fool, then you need to know that people will potentially check you by recording you and putting it out there. So Cameron says, just do your best to not end up on the wrong side of the mall road. I know, right? How hard can it be? So Gabby says they need to hire more Caymanians. Everywhere is the same with these officers, says Celine. Good morning, Allison. Yes, the mugs are on order. Let me see now, Allison. Do I have you on my waiting list for mugs? Hold on. Let me tell you. I've got mugs. Allison, no. Allison, message me though on WhatsApp so I can put down your number because I've got a whole list here of people now for the second order. Linda says you need to train your employees better. Well, I don't know which employee. Is it the cashier walking out the store or the security guard or both? So Mike says, would love to know why there's so many expat employees nowadays, especially with so many unemployed Caymanians when years ago Caymanians held these jobs. Well, Mike, there is also the question of every time Foster's has a job fair and they have jobs available, how many Caymanians are actually applying to those jobs? I'm just saying. I know a lot of Caymanians that you couldn't pay them enough to work in a grocery store. They don't want to be seen behind a register as though there's something wrong with that. So I think there's more than one question that needs to be asked here. Jonathan says, what's your point, Michael? Are you referring to race? I'm confused by that last comment by Michael. We welcome a clarification. Ren says nobody doesn't want to work for $6 an hour with this cost of living. That's why you barely see Caymanians. Well, there are jobs in the office and in management, marketing, and other places that pay more than that, for sure. And I know people, Caymanians, who work there as marketing managers and other positions. So, you might see, as Ren just said, a lot of the frontline workers, like the register people, being people who are expat workers who are happy to make $6 an hour, but you may not see who comprises the management team. And I feel like a lot of those individuals are Caymanians, but certainly we can discuss it. So listen, Allison says it shouldn't be on social media. Melinda says she's a drama queen. Just plain drama. She's probably not having a good day. Still damn drama and never needed to be on social media. Mike says they make more than $6 an hour. I know if you make $8 an hour and more than that with overtime. Yep. And then there's some Caymanians who will say that, they don't want to stand up and on their feet all day kind of thing. I had one girl, she'd always complain about having to stand up. And I was like, okay. So Gabby says she applied twice, got interviewed both times, and was told she was overqualified all 2 times. Gabby, obviously, without knowing, all the details of that, I can't really comment, but we do know that it happens in organizations. And then sometimes the reason why they don't want to hire overqualified people, which I think, to me, give people a chance, they believe in second chances, is the fact that they feel like those people are not going to stay in the position. Oh, so Michael says it's no different from getting upset if you're singled out at TSA every time you travel. At some point, you feel targeted if you only picked for a random check. Well, like I said, if everybody is being checked, I don't feel away. Like if everyone is being checked at TSA, it is what it is. I'm just another nut in line, another squirrel in line trying to get through I'm like, whatever. And you just kind of go with the flow. Can it be annoying? Yes, of course. Of course it can be. Good morning, Ling Ling. Dacia says their cameras in the store security should have checked them as it's after hours and people want to go home. Here's the thing though. Do you know what manpower would be required, Dacia, to go back and check all the camera footage for the day? I mean, they are open from what time in the morning do they open now? Is it still 6 o'clock, 7 o'clock? Until 10 o'clock at night. So every time an employee leaves and you have to go and check footage, that would be very time consuming. Like you'd have to hire multiple people just to get that done. So I don't know if that's the most efficient way. Like I said, for me, I think probably the best thing to do is not permit staff to shop after they're coming off of a shift. Because then it's not like, oh, I accidentally put it in with my other bag. No. You come in on your off day, you shop as a customer like everybody else. And then, it is what it is. Sasha says she's a long-standing employee and is well aware of the policies. Her behavior is quite suspect, but let's chalk it up to her having a bad day. Foster's did nothing wrong. And again, sometimes when people overreact, like I said earlier, if you're in the business of security, that's one of the things that you need to watch out for. You guys ever watch these shows, Locked Up Abroad and all these kind of shows, right? Where you have highly trained security professionals. And one of the things they look for are people who go off on the smallest little thing because they're trying to make a scene and be like, oh, we're going to back off of her. We're not going to touch her. That's when you need to strip search them because they got the cocaine all up in the wahoo, who, you know what I'm saying? Those are the people who make you very suspicious of security because you're like, why are you acting in this way? So your behavior makes you highly suspicious. When they got the baby and can I see it? Oh, you can't touch my baby. What's going on? And you're like, is that a real baby? Is that like a fake doll full of cocaine? Now I got to really see what's going on here. So trust me. Look, Linda says, look at Bernie Madoff. People steal. Checks and balances are needed. Yes. Some of the richest people in the world steal. They just can't get enough. And Sharon says, yep, if she was asked to stop and didn't stop, I too would have found that to be very, very suspicious. And then the next thing for you to act that way in your own, like in front of your own daughter, to me was really demonstrating bad behavior to the child as well, right? Oh, yeah. Linda reminds us of Roy McTaggart's PA or similar stealing from his MLA office. Yes. I can't remember all the details of that, but yes, I do remember that. Jonathan says Dart has a lot of shares in Bank of Trinidad. All right, so let's talk about CIBC, First Caribbean. Their name always confused me. I don't know what the heck their name was. FCIB. What is their proper name? They've always got. Okay, hold on. I actually did look this up yesterday when I was working on the story because they're always changing their name. FCIB. Let me see now. So it's First Caribbean, CIBC, and then First Caribbean International Bank. So some years ago, they did a amalgamation of the two, and then they took this extra long name, right? So that's their name currently. They have now terminated 13 Caymanian employees with more to come, is what we're being told. Now, more to come. What a hot mess. Rachel cracks me up. She says, I felt sorry for the box of crackers that got thrown around. Oh my God. Kathy, you're late. She, what the video didn't show is that she was asked to stop inside the store and she refused to stop inside the store. And so the guard followed her outside and then it was this big spectacle. Jonathan agrees with me with the avocados. Yes, child. Oh, avocados are a very precious and delicate thing. Are they considered a fruit or avocados considered fruit? I feel like they might be one of those odd things like tomatoes are not really a vegetable. They're a fruit or something kind of weird. But yes, child, avocados can be very sensitive and I would not have been throwing them down in the ground like that. Sasha says Foster's is always hiring Caymanians, even if they don't have the necessary experience. So her experience has been very different. Jonathan says if there's anybody who rightfully deserves to be treated with extreme caution, it's someone who has already proven themselves to be a thief. And Vanessa says, true, I worked for Foster's 19 years ago. All right, well, it is what it is, folks. So CIBC, First Caribbean International Bank, and CIBC Bank and Trust Company Cayman Limited, two separate entities, are but connected, laying staff off. So I heard about it last week, and I think I mentioned this to you guys briefly on the show. I had a lady call me, and she was very, very upset and crying on the phone and said that she had lost her job at CIBC, and she'd been there for a number of years. And I felt like it had just happened. And so it hadn't really sunk in yet. And of course, nobody wants to be fired, especially at a time like this, right? We're still in, thank you guys so much, George Floyd. May he rest in peace. We are still in this we're still in the middle of the whole COVID situation. Poor India is being hammered by it at the moment. And we feel like the vaccine gives us a little bit of light at the end of the tunnel, but we got a long ways to go. And so everyone needs their job right now. This is no joke, right? Everyone needs to remain employed. If you got a job, you better keep your job and do what you need to do to keep your job and keep paying your bills. Because, during times like this, we see an increase in mortgage repos and, car repos and everything else, because the bank ain't going to be playing around with you. They want their mortgages paid. They've got staff as well that they need to be keeping on board, although CIBC isn't. So they've let 13 Caymanians go. No real explanation as to what's going on here. So we were aware last week that the entire debt collection department was made redundant with no notice. Now, this is where I'm a little bit suspicious, right? Certainly, if you've decided to make an entire department redundant, this comes with some degree of planning. Am I right or am I right? So you would have thought, right, we're going to make this redundant because we're going to have people in Barbados, Jamaica, Trinidad, wherever, handle the debt collection, probably because they think they can do it cheaper. And, it is what it is. Now, we heard that the manager for the debt collection department retired last May. And since then, the entire department has been micromanaged out of Barbados. And so they wouldn't allow them to even send an email without permission from someone in the Barbados company or the Barbados office. And so, staff are already thinking, they couldn't complain. They said the HR manager here wasn't useful to them and so on and so forth. So the writing was obviously on the wall. And my thing is, why is it that they would not have simply given them notice? Like when you get rid of an entire department, what is wrong with giving somebody notice? So you can say, hey, this is our plans. We're going to make this department redundant. It is what it is. And at the end of the day, let's ensure that you can try to find something else in the industry. But when you fire people, like, okay, today's your last day. We're going to have your checks ready tomorrow. We're closing the department. No matter how you say that, you have to understand that that is the type of news that people do not receive well. And a lot of people are still struggling with post-COVID stress. So when this lady called me in tears and crying, I was not surprised that she would be upset, given, this is exactly how it went down. No notice. Now, here's the odd thing. They have since terminated other people. So the entire debt collection department is gone. They're getting rid of people in the trust department and now at the operations level. So we understand so far 13 people have been terminated with more to come. Some people were given no notice. Some people have been given until June is what I'm being told. Again, why would you give some people notice and not others? Because you don't need those people? Okay, so you're just using them? Okay. And then some people in the debt collection department, for example, they have been paid 3 times what the labor law requires. So, the labor law is like 1 week salary per year or whatever that you've worked. So one individual has worked there for 24 years. That's a long time to be with a company. That might have been her entire professional career, right? Another person has been there for 14 years, and then the youngest, most junior person there for 5 years. And one of them is they're all considered senior team members, and one is actually 8 months pregnant. So now you find out you have no job at 8 months pregnant. You know the stress that will put you under as an expectant mother? Because when you come off of maternity, technically no maternity leave, what's going to happen? How easy is it going to be for you to find a job? And a lot of people don't want to hire someone who, has just had a baby, because they're like, well, this is a high risk time when you might be out a lot. Things are going on with the baby, et cetera, et cetera. So it's very, very difficult to be in that position and be out there looking for a job. So thank you, Iron Lion. 1 week salary for every completed year. So what they did was, with the debt collection department, they paid them 3 weeks salary for every completed year. And then others, they paid them what the law required, which is the 1 week salary. Again, why? It's confusing. So the trust people got like 1 week salary for completed year. Debt collection got 3 weeks salary for completed year. Are they trying to keep the debt collection people happier than everybody else so that they don't talk, so that they're quiet? Like, I don't understand that at all. To me, if you're going to do mass layoffs, you come up with a package. I think it's only fair in these times, especially as a bank, that maybe you pay people a little bit extra. So you do 2 or 3 times what the labor law requires. That's fair. But do it for everybody. So this idea of this unequal treatment just doesn't make any sense to me. So Elizabeth says all the banks are going through a transition. The World Central Bank will soon be dissolved. The cryptocurrency world is upon us. So she's saying that this is something that needs to be looked at. What about at Cayman Airways? So last week we discovered that Cayman Airways had terminated the individuals involved in the celebrity photo with Ron Perlman. But listen, there was 3 people in that flight, 3 Cayman Airways employees, crew members. Only 1 person was terminated. So again, this begs the question, why was just 1 person terminated? What did that 1 person do that was so extraordinary or different than what the other people had done? Were they already on thin ice? These are things we don't know. Were they already on thin ice with the organization? Or what was the situation? I don't know. So 1 person was terminated, and I think she'd been there like 18 years. So she'd been there in terms of tenure more than anybody else, but she wasn't a supervisor because she had refused to take a supervisory position. And then her supervisor on the flight, a young man, was simply demoted. So he wasn't terminated, but he was demoted to junior flight attendant or whatever, which someone said to me, right now that doesn't matter because they're still going to pay him the same. And his demotion on the Saab, which is what he's been flying, doesn't make any sense, because how do you demote someone on like the little plane? They're still doing the exact same thing basically. So I wasn't really sure what the point of the demotion was. I'm like, okay. I mean, I guess you're reprimanding him, but if it doesn't impact his salary and what he's actually doing, does it matter? And then the third person is having some disciplinary action taken against them as well. But again, they're not being fired. So I think people just like to think that in employment situations, there's some degree of fairness and balance so that people know, like, okay, if you do this, everybody's going to be terminated. If you get terminated, everybody's going to receive the same package, something. And it doesn't make sense. So Natasha says 1 week for every completed year is ridiculous, especially when the employee has been with them for several years or a couple decades. Same for those who retire after being with the same employer all of their lives. Yes, I think that at some point, somebody needs to review that labor law. Remember, we had labor law revisions that came in back in, I want to say it was 2013. And this would have been, was this when Tara Rivers had just taken over? And those revisions were actually, that law was never enforced. Go check it out, folks. It never came into force, none at all. So I think it's time that maybe the PAC can add that to their list. God knows they got a lot to add to their list, but they Yes, that's happening. They need to get on it. So someone says 1 week for every year. Random checks becomes less frequent is perhaps what they meant. 1 week for every year employed, but up to 10 years max labor law. Yeah, why is there a max on it? It should be one. If it's going to be 1 year for every year employed, there should be no max. And I think it needs to be more than 1 year personally, 1 week. Someone else commenting on WhatsApp said, well explained. We were in the fine jewelry business years ago and can confirm experiencing that problem in terms of, theft and some of the security issues that happen. Good morning to Miss Alice. Thank you for tuning in. Gabby says businesses are going to start outsourcing to other countries to cut costs. Well, they've always done that if they could get away with it. Darlene said maybe she got terminated for being a whistleblower and talking it as it is. What a hot mess. This is the Cayman Airways flight attendant. I'm not sure what she was whistleblowing about, though. I'm not aware of that. I'm not aware of her whistleblowing to anybody. But yes, Gabby, this is a concern. And you know what? Here's the reality of it, folks. One of the things that we learned about COVID is most of us can work remotely from home. And in some respects, that's a good thing because I think a lot of employers like, wow, I'm getting same work done. Staff are super productive. So there are some staff members who've not returned to being full-time in their office environments. They are still working from home. All they need is decent internet and a computer. They take up less physical space in the office, less CUC bills to keep the place cool with 200 bodies in there. And all this sort of things. I know like Maples Finance, a lot of these big companies, there's still people who are working from home. And I think that's perfectly fine. I like that. But it also makes them very cognizant and aware of the fact that just like you can work from home, you can sit here in Georgetown, East End, West Bay, wherever, and get their work done. Someone across the world, halfway around the world, once they're properly trained, can do the exact same thing. And this has been happening for many, many years. So folks, technology has the advantage of being able to do things remotely, outsourcing stuff, but that also means that you, as an employee, are on thinner ice than you think. Yes. I mean, I communicate with people from my business around the world that I've never met, I've never seen. I purchase goods and services and whatever from them. And that's how the world works. We only need email, occasional phone call. Most of the time, I don't even need to call you. I'm like, send me goods, information, specs, whatever. Send me a quote. I can pay for it online. We got PayPal set up, easy peasy. But it's easy peasy for everybody too. So your knowledge is what makes you valuable, but other people around the world can acquire that knowledge and will provide that same service for a fraction of the price that you are providing it for, or that they will be paying you here for. So that's a tough lesson as we continue to evolve in terms of the world of technology. It's not every business is like front facing, going to the grocery store. At some point, grocery stores in the US can take a lick too, because guess what? Our little friends at Amazon, they are on the money, folks. They're offering a grocery service now where they're going to have some little drone come and drop it off by your door and deliver it for you. In fact, Amazon has their own drivers and stuff now. They have their own delivery service. So soon they're going to be competing with FedEx. And you know what that's all about? Cutting cost. They don't have to pay FedEx for stuff that comes from their main warehouse. They have their own airplanes, their own, delivery vans and everything. They can do it a lot more efficiently. I'm just saying. These are the things that we need to be cognizant of. Right? Right. So let me just see here now. And more, whether it's the delivery of, services such as graphic design or whatever, there are people all over the world that are doing those types of things and that you can get it done on a budget. So people in Cayman think that they offer something unique, and a lot of times there's absolutely nothing unique about what they offer at all, because you can get it just as good elsewhere for a cheaper price. And that's the world that we live in, folks. So CE Bank says, okay, grocery delivery service in real time. That's right. And they'll even keep track of like when you need to reorder stuff, send you reminders like, okay, you ordered this good, 3 weeks ago. This is the time that people normally restock. Do you need it? Listen, they're on it. So yes, the deal for CIBC, they were supposed to be acquired, but regulators didn't approve it. But just because that wasn't approved doesn't mean that they don't have existing locations in other jurisdictions where they will now try to amalgamate all of those and save costs and save money where they can. Everybody's feeling the pinch during these times. So Jonathan says that the financial industry is the golden millstone around the neck of the Cayman Islands and her people. Do not be surprised when they unceremoniously kick your ass overboard to sink, regardless of whether or not it's from your own boat. Whether that be on the micro or the macroeconomic scale, their modus operandi remains the same now as yesterday and remain as such tomorrow. They and their constructs of anonymous and unaccountable inequity and the root cause and effect factor, which it cuts off from there. They're buying UPS within 10 years. Pension should be 4 weeks for each year. Pension. We can double check that, Damien. I don't know if there's a cap on it. I always thought it was just 1 week per year. I don't recall there having been a cap, but again, we can revisit the labor law and see exactly what it says. And if you have any questions, folks, about the labor law, please be reminded that you can contact that department. That's what they're there for. And they will assist you in getting your questions answered. I do think that the labor law needs to have a re-examination to see how it can be a little bit more fair and equitable to the actual employees. The employer still has the upper hand, I'm afraid to say. And that's quite unfortunate. So what else happened over the weekend? There was a serious accident. The new change was 2 weeks capped to 12 years. But has that gone into effect? Aliana says it's basically this. You fail to evolve, you become extinct. Look at newspapers. Now bank services, what next? Well, every industry evolves. And technology, the pace at which technology has introduced so many new things in our lives, this has led to, things changing a lot quicker than they used to. Yeah, imagine 20 years ago, me doing what I'm doing now. It would have been not necessarily impossible, but impossible from the sense of the cost of doing it would have made it prohibitive. I couldn't do it just on my own. I would need to have like some major backing and, all this kind of stuff. And now, look, we can set up a newspaper. We can have it online. Thousands of people visit every single day, read all of our news articles. We can do a podcast show every single morning. Relatively easy. Cost is not extremely prohibitive. You still have to have access to paying for services that others have, such as servers and so on. But, those are a lot more economical and affordable than they used to be. So, folks, the bottom line is, as technology advances, our lives will change, and there will be a lot of things that change as a result of that. So, a couple of accidents over the weekend. There was a serious one early Saturday morning. It looks like a young man, a single person driving the vehicle, was involved in a serious collision on the spot straight. He's very, very lucky to be alive. Let me just say that. Unfortunately for him, he is in ICU. I don't know the extent of his injuries. when someone said to me, who is this guy? Because at first we'd heard that maybe he had passed away. And I was like, oh my God, that's horrible. Thankfully, he had not. But what did happen is, he's in the intensive care unit, and it's quite a serious incident. So we wish him a full recovery. Folks, listen to me. Very simple. Don't drink and drive. That's easy enough. Call a taxi. Call a friend who's sober to take you where you need to go. Have a designated driver. And also don't speed, because there were people who saw this car before it crashed, and they said that he was doing a crazy amount of speeding. So you will lose control of any car if you do, in excess of what you can handle. And the thing is, based on road conditions, lights and other things at night, there will be things that will pop up that you think you can do 100 miles per hour down Spot Street, and you really can't. Most people here have no concept how to handle a car at high speeds because, there's no major roadway or road course where you can go and practice and get that level of experience under your belt. So just slow down and be sensible. Don't drink and drive. Just take your time. It sounds so simple, but yet it seems so incredibly difficult for people. There's another serious accident last night down by Red Bay area. I don't know if what sort of injuries were involved in that, but it looks like it actually involved a bike, which, yikes. If you're on a bike and you get hit by a car, whew, that's a lick. So again, folks, I want you guys to try to slow down. Other events of the weekend, we went to the celebration event at Peter Castle on Saturday afternoon that Mr. Panton had. We put together a video with a lot of the photos and video footage so that you guys can go and check that out. On Friday, we went by the White House. We're going to put up an article here in a little bit about what the White House is, but I think this is a pretty neat idea. Gives you business owners and others the ability to acquire a small office space, co-sharing. So you share a common area, you share a kitchen. A lot of us who work from home, sometimes you need to be somewhere else other than home, especially if you don't have a dedicated office space at home. You need, just for your own, mental well-being, to be in a space with other colleagues and other people and all that good stuff. And I think that these co-sharing locations are really, really useful for that sort of thing. So check them out. They have space available for rent. You can do like a bigger office space where you have staff, 5, 10, 15 employees, as well if you just need a little one-man office. They're all tastefully decorated. The entire environment is very, very well decorated. Eventually, they're going to have a gym upstairs as well as like a common area, like a little bar, which I think is super cool. These concepts are maybe somewhat new to Cayman, but not new to the world. And I'm glad to see that people are incorporating some of these. Now, that building, a lot of you are looking at it going, where is the White House? This building looks awesome. And it's actually the former DMS building. So this is another project by Don Seymour and his partners. So I thought it was great. I think I have some photos. Anyway, we're going to put up a little photo collage later on so that you guys can see exactly what that event was like. It was well attended. It was a business after hours event, and we were very, very tickled pink to be in attendance at that event. So Mr. Panton had his event Saturday afternoon. Again, lots of people came out. I'll show you just a few photos here. So Caymanian faces. It's so nice to go out to these events and see Caymanian faces everywhere. All shades and colors and shapes and, districts and everything represented. All one people. And it was so good to see Woody came out for a little bit. He was there. And of course, Miss Marva. Here we have Gary Whitaker wearing his Cayman shirt with lots of pride, and Laura in this photo as well. So we captured a lot of great moments. There were a lot of people who were very keen on, I want to be on CMR, they said. I said, all right, well, it's for a good thing, so why not? And yes, we had a fantastic time at that event. And then there was a bit of an after party event by Chris Saunders. He had a little get together as his victory party, and that was extremely well attended as well. People had to park all the way to the top of the street, child, and walk in to be able to attend Chris's event. And I must say that, sometimes when you go to the after dark parties, you don't whip out the camera because everybody's trying to have a more relaxed vibe and to have a drink and so on. So we did see Mr. What's his name? Speaker of the House, Mr. McKeever Bush was there on his best behavior. And his driver, Graham, was obviously there keeping an eye on things as well. And let me show you this young lady who her dad came up to me and said, "Oh, I hate to bother you because I was there with my daughter trying to get her to eat some food, child, because she doesn't eat a lot sometimes." And he said, "Oh, my daughter wants to meet you. She's a fan." And somebody should have told me about the lipstick and the teeth in this photo. But anyway, I could have photoshopped it too, But this is Nala. Christian is her name. She's only 9 years old. And she was so happy to see me. She specifically requested that her dad approach me to say if she could come and say hi. And she shook my hand. I gave her a little hug. Beautiful young lady. I asked her how school was going to make sure she, performs well in school. She studies hard. And I must say she's quite fashionable. I loved her outfit. She had a really nice outfit. So big shout out to Nala. And this is Dre. He had a birthday last week as well, a couple of days ago. So we have a lot of, I think I've mentioned this before, we have a lot of young people who really love this platform. I mean, young, like 9 years old young. And so that's like super exciting. And I absolutely love spending some time with children. Irvlyn was there and she got to see the photo op with this young lady. That belonged to Mr. Siaga from Jamaica. Genesis building, not sure. Well, this isn't the Genesis building. This is the DMS building, which is across from, formerly DMS building, which is across from the Genesis building. So El Rey said he saw that with the teeth, the lipstick on the teeth. El Rey, I'm sure if you were there, you would have told me, right? Very well. So Chris's after party was great. I had a lot of you walking up to me, thanking me for the contribution during the election. Thank you guys so much for the opportunity to be able to do that. Lots of political talk, at both events, and people have high expectations of the PAC government. And we shall certainly see where it goes from here. A lot of you are very, very anxious to hear of who will be getting what ministries. We are keeping our ears to the ground so that as soon as that pops off, we will be able to inform you first, hopefully, about that. So yes, we're very, very cognizant that you want to know. And we want to know too. But let's give them time. They were just sworn in on Wednesday. I know that on, I think it was Thursday, they had some meetings. On Friday, they were in the first segment of the LA. So they're doing things like cabinet training and other things, which are obviously very, very important. Also, in case you missed it, what happened to our former premier, Alden McLaughlin? He was a no-show on Friday at the first proper sitting of the Legislative Assembly. Where was he? I'm curious, because in the real world, if you did not show up on your first day of work, you'd be fired. So I am very, very curious. I know that his former colleague, Mr. Dwayne Seymour, John, had a funeral to attend because his PA actually passed away maybe a week and a half ago during the election. And it was very, very unfortunate. And so he had to attend that funeral on Friday. Now that funeral was an invite-only funeral, which I've never really heard in Cayman before. That's a bit unusual. I think they did an invite by Zoom also, so they wouldn't live stream it like a lot of the funerals have been live streamed during COVID. And the actual service itself was by invitation only. And that was Miss Teresa Chin, who had passed away. I believe she was only 54 years old, so relatively young all the same. But, Mr. Seymour tendered his apologies for why he couldn't attend because he was going to be attending this funeral. And I heard that Juliana, there was some talk about her potentially retiring. Yay. You think? More of you need to learn the word retirement in politics and bow out gracefully. So she has mentioned that this might be her last tenure. We hope it is, Juliana, because you've had a long career and there's no harm in retiring. There's no shame, I should say, in retiring. So yes, do retire. We saw Mr. Anthony. He stopped by briefly with his lovely wife, Miss Ellen, at Chris Saunders' function on Saturday evening as well. It was very, very well attended, and people had a great time. The premier did stop by also. He came looking, he said, for some curry goat, but I said, well, someone forgot to tell the premier there was no curry goat here. We didn't have any at all. But Chris always has good food at his functions, and I think everybody really enjoyed it as well. So that was mostly the weekend recap. Yesterday was a little bit more of a relaxed vibe. I had another senior install that we did. So the person mentioned this morning, they're so happy to be watching the show today on their big screen TV. And you can do that too. So if you know a senior who's in need, please reach out to me at 324-1612. Just send me a WhatsApp number. Celine says that she'd like to meet me too. Sure, no problem. It's a little strange, Celine, because some people give me this sort of celebrity status, and trust me, I'm so not looking for it at all. I'm just a little squirrel getting my nuts, doing what I got to do. In this world, the nuts are all the little news nuggets that I got to bring for you. Seymour wants to know, Ramsey wants to know, what does PAC stand for again? I got to look it up. People, accountability, something, something, something. It was in the very first story that we did about the government forming. Let me see if I can tell you. Hold on one second. Thank God for WhatsApp. It gives me the ability to search for certain things. PACT. Somebody else was asking me what it stood for again. This was just last week. So let me see if I can find that. Okay, I'll find it and I'll let you know what it means. There's people-driven accountability, something, 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 something. I'll get it for you. There's a lot of messages last week about PAC show. Yes, so the very first announcement that they made, hold on, I'll tell you, I can search for it really quickly. They did say what it stood for. Iron Lion says we need to start penalizing our politicians for missing sessions. Hello. Thank you very, very much. People-driven, accountability, competent, and transparency. Thank you, Linda, for that. Yes. So, yes. And you know what else? We're going to start keeping track of the attendance of these MPs too. Because guess what? He may not be a minister, so he's not getting $13,000+ a month, but he's still getting over $8,000, $9,000. Hello. You better start working for that money. And you need to show up. The very least is that you show up to the job. I mean, hello. You can't work and do anything if you don't actually show up, right? So that's like a minimum requirement. You show up on time, you're present, you don't fall asleep in the parliament. Those are minimum requirements. Now we want you to do more. We want you to participate in the process. Be there for your constituency. How about finally opening up an office, Mr. Alden McLaughlin? You didn't have an office last time. How about you find one this time? Wouldn't that be nice? But yes, Lion, we need to be keeping them on point. Because next election, they're going to want to be like, oh, wow, look at what we accomplished in the last 6 months. More road works, COVID, whatever it is. And they're going to fool all you people again. Oh, he did such a great job with COVID. And I'm like, oh, God. What about the rest of the 3 years that he was in, please? What about all the things he was going to do that was going to screw up the environment and everything else? Smith Barkadere, the port. I mean, it was like a long list of infractions and everybody was just hyper-focused on COVID. COVID was listen, COVID helped the progressives get back in. Make no two ways, no arguments there. But people needed to look beyond COVID and hold them accountable for a lot more. El Ray says celebrity Sandra. Yeah, it is a little bit unusual, El Ray, to have people be like, oh, the little kids they're the funniest because they're like, you're Miss Mall Road. And I'm like, okay. But yes, people do sometimes get excited to see me. Bernie, Kathy, and Andre were helping with the cleanup in West Bay. Yes, and thank you so much, Elizabeth, for reminding us. I know that Heather and the premier also went out from early in the morning as well, and they did some cleanup also. Celine says I seem to be a nice person. I guess some people might say that. Some people think I'm really tough as nails as well. But like everybody, I'm a complex person. I'm not just one thing all the time, you know? Risa, thank you. Ralston, good to see you. One love for sure. Yes, I had a lot of people come out and come up to me, and they were just super excited to see me over the weekend. Thank you so much. What's up is 324-1612. So let me just put it across the screen for everyone to see. There you go. So there was this rumor floating around yesterday. Yep, we're looking forward to that code of conduct. Tommy joining us in the Bahamas. Thank you, Mr. Tommy. There was this rumor afloat yesterday. We received a message to say that Barry Kwape had been terminated as host of Cayman CrossTalk. And so I'm happy to tell you guys that I was digging deep before we ran with that story. And we have found out that she has not been terminated. She actually had her show this morning. Yet, it seems to be a transitional sort of a situation. So she might be on shaky ground. It looks like they have recognized that probably firing Mr. Woody was not such a great idea. And so they are now looking to see how they can spice things up a little bit. Most people find that show to be a real snooze fest. And so they're trying to see, exactly what they can do to get viewers back. Bring Woody back is what I would say. I mean, I'm no expert here, but, on a regular, we have anywhere from 300-400 people on this program. Give the people what they want. That's what I got to say about that. But anyway, we'll keep an eye on that situation. Some people had heard that the management there had terminated her and brought on somebody else. But that hasn't happened yet. So we'll keep an eye on that situation. Lots of terminations and all sorts of craziness going on. Al Ray says she's coming over to CMR. Aw. My tweetum. What a hot mess. I think that's all I've got for you folks. You guys are so funny sometimes, so I gotta tell you the truth. Cracking me up right here. But anyway, I wish you guys a safe day. There is a case that we are watching. I don't want to say too much about this yet because I have quite a bit of information, but I'm still trying to get more factual information. But I've been informed over the weekend, reliably informed, that a detective constable, a DC, I have his name, I have the victim's name, I have the other person who was arrested, I have all this information, but I need to try to understand what happened. But he has been arrested on Friday for sexual assault. A detective constable, like a police officer, allegedly has been arrested for sexual assault along with another woman. I'm like, how does the woman get involved in the sexual assault? Maybe she was a accomplice, or did she actually help to assault the other woman? Like, I don't know. So we're looking into it, is the bottom line. As soon as we know more details, we will certainly let you all know exactly what's going on. It sounds really crazy. It's never a nice position for the RCIPS to be in a position where one of their own is running afoul of the law. It makes them look bad, and it makes the entire community look bad, to be quite frank and honest. So we're monitoring that situation. I've got to get back. Al Ray says maybe it was like a threesome, 3-play or whatever. Yeah, I don't know, but I do have to get back in the swing of things in terms of court. So some of you lucked out because we were not at court because of all the election news and drama. And so you kind of, they're like, oh, Sandy's not here and I'm getting arrested and I'm in court for doing God knows what. You've been very, very fortunate, but now we're back to normal here, folks. So we will be keeping an eye of you, all of you in the court system, and updating people about what's popping off in the courthouse. Because court is always very, very interesting, I must tell you. So that is that. And I think that's pretty much what I got for you here today. So I want you guys to have a wonderful day. Please, folks, stay safe. Be good. If you can't be good, try to be good at whatever it is that you're doing. This is strange. Okay, so Marshall says, I wonder how many of the politicians who weren't successful in the last election showed up to the Cleanup Earth Day. Good question. Darlene says, a sudden signed deal for the Georgetown landfill Mount Trashmore. Will that be the final fix for the Mount Trashmore problem? That's a good question. And I think we have some questions about whether or not that deal will continue as is. One of the interesting things, I was saying this to someone the other day, I think that once a general election has been called and Parliament has been dissolved, there should be an immediate hiatus on government signing any contracts. Because you know what happens, right? Government tries to push in these last minute deals for them and their cronies. I'm not by any stretch of the imagination saying that this is what's going on with that DART project, but I also have documents from the last time government entered a deal with DART, and DART and his organization got away with like a lot. They got away like bandits in terms of what they were getting out of the deal. So we need to, I think, be very, very cautious about allowing these last minute changes and these last minute deals to come into effect. And so I think there should be a complete hiatus, stopgap on it where it doesn't happen. And instead, you allow the new government to come in and then have an opportunity to decide what contracts they'll be signing and how they will be moving forward from there. Thank you, Jonathan, for that comment. The heinous and deliberate status quo of undemocratic and self-serving politics and illegitimate influence peddling. Yes. Thank you, Mr. Thomas. He says, always enjoy watching and listening. Megan, you have a beautiful day. Irvelyn, Miss Julie is late. Julie, what you doing waking up at this hour? Tell me good morning. Yes, that's how they got the beach, honey chow. Yes, people are always behaving like they are above the law. We see that every single day. When we come to clean up, we need to get the North Shore waterfront and the mangroves done. It's a mess. Thank you so much, Magdalene. All right. Yes, we try to be informative. Thank you so much, Punctus, for that comment there. And thank you all for listening to the program. You have made us, without question, without a doubt, undisputed, Cayman's not only #1 news source, but #1 talk show program. And you guys are here for it every single day. And I got to tell you, we've got more exciting things coming your way into 2021 in terms of a possible radio collaboration. We're working on some details there, and I'm excited about it. Have a beautiful day, folks. Again, work hard, be safe, and we shall see you tomorrow morning.
Thank you for tuning in to another edition of The Cold Hard Truth. Make sure to check Facebook for showtimes and more information and the latest news at CaymanMarlRoad.com. Subscribe to our IG and Facebook pages to get the latest happenings.